Lingering Serenade. Greetings everyone, and welcome back to Shadowlands, the place where we explore the unexplainable. This is your host, Leo, bringing you another tale from the fringes of reality. How are you all doing tonight? I hope life is treating you well, keeping you healthy, happy, and prosperous. Tonight, I have a story titled The Lingering Serenade, a chilling account from a listener who wishes to remain anonymous. For those of you just joining our little community, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our latest ventures into the dark. Now, without further ado, let's settle in and get to the story. As was my habit, I'd spend most evenings on the porch of Beau Solomon's house. I knew him as a man who craved respect, especially when it came to his supposed knowledge of Hoodoo and the occult. Many of our neighbors in the small bayou town dismissed Beau as all talk, a charlatan spinning yarns. But I wasn't so sure. I'd seen things. One night, around midnight, I was sitting on his porch, which overlooked a wide, untamed yard. The air was thick and humid, heavy with the scent of damp earth and night-blooming jasmine. Cypress trees, draped in Spanish moss, stood like silent sentinels around the property. The sky was overcast, swallowing the moon and stars, and the atmosphere felt unnervingly still. For some reason, my instincts screamed that someone was hiding nearby, watching. I couldn't place where, but I could hear the faint, deliberate sound of footsteps on the damp ground, someone trying to move without making a sound. Snap! It sounded like they stepped on a dry twig. My heart hammered against my ribs. I should have been terrified by this strange occurrence, something I'd never experienced before, but I pushed the fear down. Then I saw him. It was Beau. He stared at me from the edge of the woods, his eyes glowing a faint, unnerving red in the darkness. The look lasted only a second before he crept stealthily toward his house and slipped in through the back door. It wasn't the first or second time I'd witnessed such odd behavior, but asking him about it felt impossible. I was afraid of offending the man. It was only later that I learned Beau was deeply involved in some kind of ritual practice, trying to master what he called deep swamp magic. Perhaps because he realized I'd seen him so many times, he grew less guarded, and bit by bit, he started opening up to me. "You see that thing standing in the corner over there?" Beau asked me one evening, his voice a low rumble as he suddenly sat beside me on the porch swing. He pointed a crooked finger toward the far corner of his property line. "No. What are you talking about?" I asked, squinting into the gloom. I saw nothing but a young magnolia tree. "That's a haint I put there," he said calmly. "A guardian for the house. If you want to see it, I can open your eyes to it." "No way," I balked. "You want me to see something like that? The thought alone is giving me chills." "It's so you'll believe me," he insisted. "So you'll know my power is real." I couldn't answer, just offered a weak smile and shook my head. Look, it's watching us now," he whispered. And over in that other corner, I buried the skull I took from the grave of a woman who just passed. Died a virgin, she did. "That one's mean, real territorial." "Why would you take her skull?" I protested, a little disturbed by his casual cruelty. "That's horrible. Her spirit will never rest." "That's the point," he said with a grim chuckle. "Her spirit stays close to her skull. Makes for a fine security system. Look around." He gestured to the 4 dirt bikes and an old pickup truck sitting out in the open yard, completely unsecured by a fence or garage. In any other part of this parish, that stuff would be gone overnight. But my place? Never been robbed, never had a thing stolen. You know why? Because anyone with bad intentions comes skulking around here. They'll see things that'll scare them half to death. They'll see shadows moving where there shouldn't be, hear whispers on the wind. It'll make them sick for weeks. When I thought about it, he had a point. His property, overflowing with tools and vehicles, was untouched. Still, I was deeply skeptical. I don't know, Beau. I believe some things can't be explained, but I'm not sure I want to go looking for them. I'm afraid if I see one of those things, it'll get angry, think I'm challenging it. Nah, not if I'm the one who tells you to look. "They're under my command," he boasted. "Trust me, they answered to me." I just fell silent, unsure of what to say. "You know," he continued, seeing my hesitation, "if you wanted a wife, a woman so beautiful it'd make your head spin, you could have one. You could even become rich." That got my attention. "How would that work, Beau?" I asked, my curiosity piqued by the mention of a beautiful wife. I was, after all, a single, red-blooded American man. "It's simple. I'd prepare a special wash for you, anoint your forehead. Then you go into my ritual room. After that, you just wait. In 5 minutes, 2 figures will appear. An older man and a beautiful young woman, his daughter. If they appear, your wish will likely be granted. But there's another possibility. If a monstrous dog or a black owl appears instead, you gotta get out of there fast. Don't say a word, because that means you've summoned something nasty. Something that wants to drag you away to their world. A place far from here. Whoa, that's terrifying, Beau, I said, a shiver running down my spine. Our conversation ended there, without any agreement, but I could tell Beau still hoped I'd take him up on the offer to see the other side, just to prove he wasn't all talk. A week later, I saw him dressed in clean clothes, carrying a duffel bag. "Where you headed, Beau?" I called out. He walked over and sat down next to me. "You see my wife's little market stand? Sales have been dropping every day, but that's no problem for me. I can get the capital to restock it easy. Just need 3 days. Everything will be back to normal." "How's that possible? How can you just ask for money? And who are you asking?" "The Serpent Queen of the Cypress Deep," he said with reverence. "I'm going to meet with her. You'll see for yourself when I get back from the heart of the swamp." Okay, Beau was all I could manage. A few days later, his words proved true. The day after he returned, his wife's roadside market, which had been nearly empty, was suddenly overflowing with fresh produce, canned goods, and local crafts more than when she first opened. It was then I started to truly believe that Beau might have a connection to this Serpent Queen, this powerful swamp entity. He wasn't just a trickster. I saw proof again when a friend of mine from another state was having family problems. My friend had no idea I was sitting with Beau, but I put him on speakerphone. As my friend talked, Beau listened intently. "What's the problem?" Beau asked after a moment. He lay back on the porch swing, closing his eyes. About 5 minutes later, he sat up. "He says your friend's house faces west, that he owns a pet monkey, and," he went on, describing my friend's distant home with eerie accuracy. My friend on the phone was stunned. Beau could somehow see a location hundreds of miles away, as if he were standing there. More and more, I became convinced that Beau Solomon commanded real power and had spirits at his beck and call. His fame began to spread, reaching beyond our small town. At the time, the state lottery, the Powerball, was all anyone could talk about. Beau always seemed to have uncanny luck with his numbers, often winning respectable prizes. This drew a crowd of people to his porch every evening, hoping he'd share the winning numbers for the next drawing. Some left disappointed, but many left with a slip of paper clutched in their hands. One evening, a local school teacher came to him, desperate. He was in deep with a loan shark and needed a way out. Beau offered him a solution. He gave the teacher a set of 6 numbers to play. But then, strangely, Beau produced a thick stack of cash and placed it on the table between them, a truly staggering amount. The drawing was still 2 hours away. "This money is yours," Beau said, tapping the stack. "You can take it and pay off your debt tomorrow morning. But there's a condition." The teacher, his eyes wide, nodded eagerly. "You have to bring me an old rooster," Beau said. "A tough old bird, and you'll butcher it right here, at my house. Understand?" The next morning, just after 7, the teacher arrived, carrying an old rooster and a sharp knife. He asked where he should do the deed, so he could take the money and leave quickly. Beau looked at him with a mix of pity and contempt. "Son, are you a fool, or just plain dumb? When I said old rooster, I meant an old man. You have a father, don't you?" "Yes, I still have my father," the teacher stammered. "And would you be willing to slaughter your own father? Here's the deal. That money on the table becomes yours, but when you go home, you'll find your father gone, the life swapped for that cash. It's not free. It has to be traded for the life of your old man." "What?" The teacher recoiled in horror. "No! Never! How could I sacrifice my own father for that? That filthy money? God forbid!" "You call this money filthy and forbidden now," Beau sneered. "But that's only because it isn't yours yet. I'll be returning it to its owner. Now, you go on home and think about that debt of yours." Without another word, the teacher stormed away, his face a mask of disgust and disappointment. Why do I tell you all this about Beau? Because there was something else, something that kept me drawn to his house, that made me want to linger on that porch. Beau had a daughter, his youngest, named Clara-Belle. She was just a freshman in high school. Clara-Belle was more than pretty. She had a gentle spirit and a smile that could light up the darkest bayou night. Perhaps because of her kindness, plenty of boys were infatuated with her, some secretly, others bold enough to declare their feelings. Clara-Belle handled it all with grace, politely turning them down by saying she wanted to focus on school and wasn't ready for a boyfriend. After all, she was only 15, but she didn't look it. She was tall and graceful, with long, dark hair that she always wore down. When the humid Louisiana breeze caught it, her hair would seem to dance, a silent invitation that made every boy in the parish want to run their fingers through it. People often mistook her for being much older. There was one boy, from a neighboring town, who was completely obsessed with her. His name was Caleb Boudreaux, the son of the parish sheriff, a man of considerable influence. "I don't care if you're still in school or just a kid," Caleb told her one day, his voice laced with an unsettling intensity. "You're gonna be my wife." "I'm sorry, Caleb," she replied gently. "It's not that I'm rejecting you, but wouldn't you be better off with one of my older sisters? They're all grown and ready to settle down." "Remember this," Caleb warned, his eyes narrowing. "If you turn me down, you'll regret it." With that, he vanished and was never seen near Clara-Belle again. But his threat was not an empty one. He had resorted to dark magic to hurt her. Day by day, Clara-Belle's body grew thinner, especially her legs, which wasted away until they were nothing but skin and bone. Even the slightest movement caused her excruciating pain. Eventually, she was completely paralyzed. Beau immediately recognized the symptoms of a hex. He commanded one of his spirit servants to find out who was responsible. In an instant, the spirit returned with the answer. It was Caleb, his pride wounded by her rejection. Without waiting, Beau drove straight to the Boudreaux residence. "I'm warning you," he told Caleb, his voice dangerously low. "You will lift the curse you put on my daughter, right now. If you don't, I swear on all that is holy and unholy, I will turn that sickness back on you and your entire family." My patience is wearing thin. Terrified, Caleb confessed everything, revealing the name of the root worker he had hired. Beau didn't hesitate. He took all of his spiritual allies and went to confront the man. A fierce battle of wills and magic erupted between Beau and the root worker. But Beau's spirits were stronger. The root worker surrendered, immediately revoking the hex on Clara-Belle. After seeing all this, I finally concluded that everything Beau had said was true. My curiosity grew. What would it be like to enter that special room, to experience the spirit world for myself? One night, I finally asked him, "Beau, I want to try it. I want to meet one of them." Beau was a bit surprised, but he let out a slow, rumbling laugh. "Are you sure, son? You have to be serious about this. You're looking for a wife, not a game. The risk is all on you. These spirits, they don't play around. If you say yes and then back out, you could get lost over there forever. It's not like getting lost in the swamp. This is a place you can't come back from." "I understand," I said, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. "I'm ready." He led me into his house, into a small, windowless room at the back. He handed me a glass of water that had a strange, earthy smell. "Drink this," he commanded. "It will calm your spirit and sharpen your senses. When you're in there, if you hear music, that's a good sign. But if all you hear is the sound of a roaring fire, you get out. Understand?" I drank the water. It was nearly midnight. Beau had me sit cross-legged in the corner of the dark room. He then began to chant in a low, guttural language, calling on the inhabitants of the other world. He gently wiped my face with his hand, and suddenly, my head felt light, and the sound of distant thunder filled my ears. I felt a dizzying pull, as if the room itself were dissolving around me. When my vision cleared, I was no longer in Beau's small room. I was standing in a vast, twilight landscape. The air was cool and smelled of damp soil and unknown blossoms. There was no sun or moon in the sky, only a perpetual, soft luminescence that cast long, strange shadows. I couldn't tell if it was day or night. The rustle of unseen leaves whispered around me as a strong wind blew through the eerie silence. Suddenly, two figures stood before me. One was a young woman of breathtaking beauty, dressed in a flowing gown that seemed woven from Spanish moss and moonlight, shimmering with an iridescent green. A delicate veil covered her hair. She smiled and approached me. The other figure was a middle-aged man, stocky and broad-shouldered. with a thick mustache and beard. He wore clothes that looked ancient and formal, like something from old European royalty. "What is your name, handsome young man?" the girl asked, her voice like the chime of tiny bells. She was so close now, and her smile sent a tremor through me. I found it hard to meet her gaze. "My name is Leo," I managed to say. "And who might you be, my lady? A goddess?" They both laughed, a sound that was both musical and unsettling. "My name is Liliane," she said. "You can call me Lily, and this is my father, the Patriarch. We come from the Sunken Cypress Kingdom, summoned by your friend's call," her father said, his voice deep and resonant. He said, "You were looking for a wife. Are you the one?" "Yes, I am," I said, my confidence returning. "I wish to marry one of your people. I was told they were beautiful, but now I see that was an understatement. You, my lady, are exquisite." "My people can appear as whatever we wish," she explained. "If someone has a good heart, I will show them a beautiful form. But if their heart is wicked, I will appear as the most hideous creature imaginable." "And what do you see in me?" I asked. "For now," she said, her eyes twinkling, "I see a good man, but if you ever turn from your intentions, do not expect to ever leave our world." "She speaks the truth, human," her father added, his tone stern. "Do not trifle with our kind. I am a patriarch, respected by my subjects. If you betray us, my people will hunt you to the ends of existence. You are fortunate to have met us, a noble family. We will grant your wish. But first, a question. Is this your true path in life? To turn back now would be fatal." This was it, the point of no return, I am sure, I declared. "Then, for now, you two may court, to see if you are compatible. And you, son of man, you may stay in my court as an honored guest, my future son-in-law. You will be served by my handmaidens. Enjoy yourself in my world, for anything that does not exist in the human realm can be found here. Thank you. Thank you, my lord. Don't call me my lord. I'm not a king. Call me father, for soon enough you will be my son." "Of course." "Father, after that first meeting, I was taken to the Patriarch's court. I was given a room in the back, which felt strange. I was a guest, yet treated like a servant. But what made me stay, what made me content, was the fact that the handmaidens of the court were all stunningly beautiful, each one almost identical to the next. I couldn't track time. Morning, noon, and night were all the same in this twilight realm. They had a society much like ours. They socialized, visited neighbors, and even had bustling markets. I would wander through them, watching them trade livestock for food and clothing. It was only after a long time that I learned how to distinguish day from night by observing their true forms. When they appeared as beautiful humans, it was their daytime, a time for their daily routines. But when their night fell, they would revert to their true, terrifying forms. It was a time of conflict, a time when rival clans would wage war. It was a horrific sight, their monstrous bodies clashing under the perpetual twilight sky. One evening, Liliane came to my room. I had just finished bathing and was wearing only a towel around my waist. She smiled shyly, but then her eyes fixed on my chest. I have a fair amount of chest hair, and she seemed fascinated by it. "Your chest. It's strong," she murmured, her voice husky. "I like a man with hair on his chest. It looks masculine." She giggled, then stepped closer. Before I knew it, she was tracing the damp hair on my chest with her delicate fingers. My heart pounded like a drum. The air crackled with a tension that was both thrilling and frightening. Without warning, her lips were on mine, a deep, passionate kiss that stole the breath from my lungs. The day of our wedding finally arrived. Father Sankabuana announced the date, and the court burst into a flurry of activity. The celebration was to be held in a vast, open field that was inexplicably covered in a soft, red moss, like an endless velvet carpet. In the center stood a grand stage for performers. The wedding throne was placed nearby, but my heart sank when I saw it. It was a massive chair carved from some dark, gnarled wood, large enough for only one person. It was covered in grotesque carvings of what looked like snarling swamp beasts, with bared fangs and glowing red eyes. As I was dressed in ceremonial robes by a silent handmaiden, a profound sense of loneliness washed over me. Two attendants then escorted me to the throne and instructed me to sit. It felt cold and menacing beneath me. After a long wait, Liliane emerged, attended by two of her loyal servants. She was radiant, a vision of otherworldly beauty. She sat beside me, on a smaller, simpler chair brought out for her. I was a mess of conflicting emotions, joy at having such a beautiful bride, but also a deep, chilling fear. Not a single member of my family, none of my friends, were there to witness this moment. I was utterly alone. How could I live a life of such isolation, surrounded by creatures that were not my own kind? My smile was hollow, as I accepted congratulations from the guests, their hands feeling strangely cold and clammy in mine. The music swelled, and performers from their world took the stage, their acts bizarre and mesmerizing. I felt like an actor in a play I hadn't rehearsed for, my soul at war with itself. I was bound in a marriage without love, a man who had gone fishing for a beautiful prize and had fallen into a swamp he couldn't escape. I became Liliane's husband and fulfilled my duties. I quickly discovered that my demure, graceful bride was insatiable in the bedroom. I had never imagined that a princess of such regal bearing could be so voracious. I was completely overwhelmed, struggling to keep up with her relentless demands, which seemed to cycle endlessly from one encounter to the next. If this continued, I thought, I might just waste away. I started looking for a way out, a way back to the world I knew. I began exploring the boundaries of the Sunken Cypress Kingdom. One day, I found myself standing at the edge of their domain, looking out at a vast, open prairie under a sky that was completely different from the one I was used to. In the distance, I could see rolling hills and tall trees. I saw the warm, orange glow of a setting Sunday. It was the human world, my world. I felt an overwhelming urge to step across that boundary, to feel the familiar warmth of the sun on my skin. But I hesitated. It could be an illusion, a trick designed by these creatures to trap me forever. It's beautiful, isn't it? A young man my own age was suddenly standing beside me. I hadn't heard him approach. What you're seeing isn't always what's real, he said, following my gaze. You see the sunset over there, but look over here. He pointed in another direction. I turned and saw a sky filled with dark, swirling clouds, a crescent moon, and a smattering of stars. You see the difference? He asked. I've never dared to cross over. I'm afraid of getting lost in the human world, or worse, in the world of the demons. Demons? There are other worlds besides this one and the human one? Of course, he said. The demons are different from us. We are not cannibals. We eat meat, but we cook it. The demons. They are the savage inhabitants of the deep wilderness, places no human or spirit dares to go. They were once great warriors, cast out from their kingdoms for their greed and bloodlust. They live for war and feasting on raw flesh. Their world and ours are separated by a borderland, a place where lost souls and malevolent spirits wander. His words painted a terrifying picture. I thanked him for the information and walked away, my mind reeling. That night, Liliane came to me, dressed in a sheer, alluring gown, but I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. My love, she cooed. Why are you so quiet? Are you already tired of me? No, my princess, I lied, seeing my chance. I was just thinking about my parents. Would you permit me to visit them? I miss them terribly. The truth was, I was utterly repulsed by her. Earlier that day, I had accidentally seen her true form when I walked past the bathing chamber. She was a short, squat creature covered in coarse, black hair. Her own hair was a matted, tangled mess, and sharp fangs protruded from the corners of her mouth. I shuddered at the memory, at the thought of making love to that monster. I realized then that our marriage was not based on love or even affection. For her, it was about satisfying a primal urge. For me, it had been about possessing a beautiful object. You wish to visit your family, she said, her expression softening. Of course, I will speak to father. He can arrange for an escort to protect you. No, my love, I quickly interjected. I am your husband. A husband must be brave. What if we have children one day? It will be my duty to protect my family. The idea was to travel alone, without her guards. That's true, she mused, but are you strong enough? The human world is weak. What if one of my kind tries to harm you? You're right, I said, pressing my advantage. Perhaps I should learn from your father. Ask him to teach me his arts, to grant me some of his power. I would do it all for our family. Her face lit up. What a wonderful idea. I will speak to him. I'm sure he will agree. I am his only daughter, after all. The next day, I stood before the Patriarch. "I have no objection to sharing my power with you," he said. "You are my son-in-law, which means you are my son. I see the honesty in your heart. You love my daughter and wish to protect her. I am proud of you. Now, what knowledge do you seek?" "Forgive me, Father," I said humbly. "I know nothing of these arts. Whatever you see fit to teach me, I will accept with a grateful heart. All I want is the ability to defend myself and my family." "I believe you will," he said with a nod. "In fact, you will need all the skills I possess, for one day, you will be the one to rule this court in my place." My heart leaped. "But Father, I am only human." "It does not matter. If my people wish for you to lead, then you shall lead." He taught me everything. I learned ancient spells, incantations of power, and the terrifying Rawa Rantek, a spell of invulnerability. A person with this power could not be killed, not even by beheading. As long as a piece of their body touched the earth, it would rejoin and heal itself. With patience and determination, I absorbed every lesson. The Patriarch was pleased with my progress. Finally, the day came for me to depart. Liliane gave me a small, heavy pouch as a gift for my family. She couldn't accompany me, for reasons I was secretly grateful for. A single guard escorted me to the portal between worlds. I stepped through and found myself back on the edge of Beau's property. The night was late, and no one saw me arrive. I knocked on my parents' door. They opened it and gasped, pulling me into a tearful embrace. "My son, where have you been?" they cried in unison. "It's a long story," I said, as I told them a heavily edited version of my marriage to a woman from the spirit world. "But how did you come back?" my mother asked, her eyes wide with fear. I thought no one ever returned from a place like that. I asked for their permission. They gave me a short time. I have to be back before dawn, or I could be lost forever. But don't worry, I'm learning their ways, so I can come and go as I please soon. My younger sister Wanda woke up and clung to me, sobbing, "Don't go again, Leo. Please don't leave us again." "I have to for now, Wanda," I said, my heart aching. "But I'll always be there for you." Before I left, as the first hint of dawn touched the sky, I gave my mother the pouch from Liliane. Their eyes widened at the sight of the gold and jewels inside. "This isn't blood money," I assured them. "It's a gift from my wife. She looks human, just like us. It's better if I keep the details secret for now." My time was up. I had to leave before the sun rose. As I made my way back to the portal, just at the edge of the borderland, I saw a familiar figure wandering aimlessly. It was a girl I knew very well. "Clara-Belle!" I shouted. It was her, but why was she here? This wasn't the human world. It was the borderland, a place for lost souls. I called her name again, but she didn't seem to hear me. I ran to her side. "Clara-Belle, what are you doing here?" Her eyes were vacant, her face pale. I don't know," she whispered. Caleb brought me here." "That boy," I snarled. "He's still trying to make you suffer." I gently guided her to a large rock, letting her rest. "Why is he still obsessed with you? Didn't your father teach him a lesson?" "Where are we, Leo?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm not entirely sure," I admitted. "Your father taught me how to see this world, the world beyond human senses. It's a miracle I found you here. Any deeper, and you'd be lost forever." I gently wiped the sweat from her brow. We sat in silence for a moment. I knew she wanted to go home, but I was torn. If I took her back, I would miss my deadline to return to the Sunken Cypress Kingdom. I would be a fugitive. But looking at her, so fragile and lost, there was no choice. I had to take Clara-Belle home, whatever the consequences. The Patriarch's followers would surely hunt me down, seeing me as a traitor who tricked them to steal their magic. But then I remembered, I had their magic. I was no longer a helpless human. I focused my mind, concentrating my newfound power to pierce the veil between worlds. Faintly, I saw a vision of a familiar landscape, houses and trees. It was the way back. "Clara-Belle, come on. We have to get out of here now," I said, shaking her gently. She didn't respond. She was unconscious. With no other choice, I lifted her into my arms. Her body was strangely light, almost weightless. I carried her through the shimmering barrier and back into the physical world. finding myself standing right in front of Beau Solomon's house. He and his wife were on the porch, their faces etched with worry. They rushed toward me. "Leo, what happened?" Beau demanded. As I laid Clara-Belle down on the porch swing, I realized with a shock that her body was translucent. I hadn't been carrying her physical form, only her spirits. Her body was lying in her bedroom at that very moment. Sorry, Beau. I found her wandering in a distant place. She was lost. It was Caleb's doing. He just won't give up." "I knew it," Beau growled. "I suspected this was his handiwork." He went inside, and I followed him. Clara-Belle was lying in her bed, pale and still, her mother weeping beside her. Beau began a ritual, chanting over his daughter, and slowly, her spirit settled back into her body. Her eyes fluttered open. Afterward, Beau and I sat on the porch. "I was confused when you didn't return to their world," he said. "I thought you were happy there, with your beautiful new wife. Everyone here just assumed you'd moved away for work." "It was beautiful, Beau," I admitted, "but it was also a prison, a monotonous, loveless existence. I just wanted to see my family." "Be careful, son," he warned. "If you don't go back, they will come looking for you. They will see you as a runaway." "I know, Beau. I'm just confused. That marriage never felt real. It wasn't based on love. It was just curiosity about the unknown. But now I've learned a lot from the Patriarch. I have some of his power. I can defend myself if his people come for me." "It would seem so," Beau said, looking at me with new respect. "I couldn't even sense your presence in their world anymore. Your power has grown far beyond mine." "You're being too modest, Beau," I said, trying to change the subject. "It's because of you I'm like this. Anyway, what are you going to do about Caleb?" "I'm still thinking about it," he said darkly. "I want to teach that boy a lesson he'll never forget, but I'm afraid I'll lose control." What if you let me handle it?" I offered. Beau looked at me, a long, calculating gaze. "You think you can?" "I'll make him understand," I said. "My way," he agreed. Later, I was home with my parents. My mother was worried. "What if your wife's family finds you here?" "I'll do whatever it takes to stop them from bothering our family," I promised. But her words were valid. I wasn't dealing with ordinary people. These were powerful, supernatural beings. They could find me easily, and by extension, they could find my family. My family was in danger. I was exhausted. I hadn't slept properly in what felt like months. I collapsed into bed and fell into a deep, troubled sleep. I don't know how long I was out, but a sudden chill woke me. The window to my room was wide open. As I got up to close it, a massive hand shot out and grabbed my arm. Outside the window stood a towering, monstrous creature, its eyes glowing like hot coals. I knew instantly it was a soldier from the Patriarch's court. "You will come with us, little man," it growled, its voice like grinding stones. "The Patriarch has sent me to bring you back to our kingdom. I'll return when my business here is finished," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I don't care. My orders are to bring you back, dead or alive. Then you'll have to take me by force. I'm human. My place is here." "So be it," the creature snarled, lunging at me. I dodged, my new reflexes kicking in. I couldn't fight it here. The commotion would wake the whole neighborhood. I focused my energy and slipped into the borderland, the ethereal plane between worlds. The creature followed, laughing. "You think you can run from us, coward?" A whole troop of them was there, waiting. I stopped and turned to face them. "Your fight is with me alone," one of them said. "It will be a waste of time. The power you learned from the Patriarch is great, but it means nothing against us." He cracked a whip made of pure fire, the heat scorching my face as it flew past. Another came at me, then another. They were trying to corner me. I dodged and weaved, but I was outmatched. Suddenly, a net of energy fell over me, then another and another, until I was trapped in a cage of crackling power, no bigger than a small room. I was like a mouse cornered by tigers. "Is this all the great son-in-law can do?" the leader mocked. "Truly pathetic. I am far more worthy to succeed the Patriarch than you." "At least I'm not ugly as sin," I shot back, hoping to anger him. It worked. He roared and charged, but before his attack could land, another creature stopped him. "Brother, remember our orders. We must not kill him. He is still Princess Liliane's husband. She would be furious." The leader grumbled, but relented. They dragged me, still in the energy cage, back to the Sunken Cypress Kingdom. I was thrown into a strange prison. It was a room with no doors or windows, the walls soft and rubbery. It was the dreaded spirit cage, a prison from which there was no escape. After some time, Liliane appeared outside the transparent wall. "Oh, my love, you have returned to me," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "But why in here? This room is for those who have broken their promises. What have you done?" She was toying with me. "You are a traitor, a clever and deceitful one. You preyed on the foolishness of my people. You pretended to want a beautiful wife and a life of luxury, all while you stole my father's power and feasted on my body. I never imagined you could be so cruel." She was no longer calling me my love, just you. I remained silent, staring at her with cold defiance. I was a prisoner, awaiting the judgment of their court. I knew I would be found guilty. I had betrayed their trust. There would be no mercy, unless I had given her a child, a half-human heir. But there were no signs of that. My life was over. I accepted it. It was my own fault, but before I met my end, I wanted to find my way back to the right path. I remembered my sins, my pride, my foolish desires. I remembered the Almighty God who had created me and all of existence. "God Almighty!" I screamed, my voice echoing in the strange dimension. At that moment, a deafening crash of thunder shook the entire kingdom. Lightning tore across the twilight sky, which had never seen such a storm. The heavens seemed to split open as fiery bolts rained down. The rubbery walls of my prison trembled and then exploded like a bubble of red blood. I crawled out, weak and disoriented. The monstrous inhabitants of the court were scattering in terror, panicked by the divine fury. No one paid any attention to me. I crawled away, hiding among the chaos, making my way toward the exit. I could hear the sounds of an army being mustered. They had realized I was the cause of the cataclysm. As I hid behind a cluster of massive, pulsating fungi, I heard footsteps. They were getting closer. I held my breath, bracing for the end. I had no magic left. Calling upon God had seemingly erased the Patriarch's dark gifts. Then, through a thick, swirling mist, I saw a figure. A girl. It was Clara-Belle. "Clara-Belle, how did you get here?" "I had a dream about you, Leo," she said calmly, as if walking through a hellish spirit world was perfectly normal. "You were in trouble. So I came. My daddy told me how." "It's too dangerous here," I said. "I can't even protect myself anymore." "My daddy gave me this," she said, pulling a small, sharp razor blade from the pocket of her jeans. Without hesitation, she drew it across her wrist. Blood welled up instantly. "Quick, Leo, cut your arm. We have to mix our blood." I hesitated, stunned by her actions. "Do it, before they find us," she urged. I took the blade and made a shallow cut on my own wrist. She pressed her bleeding wrist against mine. I felt a strange warmth, a tingling sensation that spread through my entire body. "This is blood love, Leo," she whispered, her eyes locked on mine. "I know you love me, and you know I love you. My daddy knows it too. He allowed me to come and help you." "What do we do now?" "Nothing," she said with a small smile. "We just wait. Are you scared?" "I don't know," I admitted. She took my other hand, her grip firm, as our mixed blood began to dry on our skin. In that instant, the harsh, alien landscape around us dissolved. The smell of sulfur and decay was replaced by the sweet scent of sugarcane and damp earth. We were sitting in a vast sugarcane field, high on a hill, the morning sun warming our faces. "Where are we?" I asked, feeling foolish. Just a short while ago, I could traverse dimensions in a blink. Now, I was completely lost. Clara-Belle rested her head on my shoulder. I instinctively put my arm around her, stroking her long, dark hair. "Leo," she whispered, will you stay with me?" "But I'm already married." "Not anymore," she said firmly. "A human should marry a human, not a spirit. It's terrifying to imagine you sleeping with their true forms." She shuddered. Then a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. "But it was good, right?" "Maybe," I chuckled, "but probably not as good as kissing you." Clara-Belle leaned in, puckering her lips, her eyes fluttering shut. I moved closer, my heart racing, our lips just inches apart. "Ahem," A loud, deliberate cough broke the spell. We sprang apart. Beau Solomon was standing right in front of us, a wide grin on his face, wagging his finger playfully. Clara-Belle and I just looked at each other and burst into embarrassed laughter. She jumped up and ran off toward home, leaving me alone with her father, who just kept smiling that knowing smile. And that's the story for tonight, folks. What do you all think? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in to Shadowlands. For those of you new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next story. And forgive me if I stumbled over any words. I'm signing off for now. Until next time, stay safe and keep an open mind. This is Leo from the heart of the Shadowlands. Good night.